way of telling without being like on it, like on the actual page. It's saying that we're on right now. So I say we just go ahead and go for it. You ready?
Ready.
Hello everyone. It's Matt.
Nikki.
All right. Everybody should know who we are by now. So today we're going to talk about a couple of things. Nikki felt it was really important to talk about insulin resistance. I think it's definitely important too, because I don't think you can talk enough about this because it's so vast and so deep, and it's like the main reason that we're all fat, or at least some of us are fat, and that why we get fat. Insulin is the reason. So first, before we talk about that, we're going to talk a little bit about our progress. Nikki, you want to talk about yours? Because mine's basically the same. Like I've come up on a stall, so I've got to change some stuff. I've got to change some of the foods that I'm eating, because I might be eating things that are causing insulin spikes, or something's gone awry, and I've stopped. I keep losing size. I keep going, like, making my belt tighter, but my weight is just plateaued for like a month and a half now, I think. But Nikki,
my weight was on a plateau for about 2 months. I fluctuated between 343 and 360, and I know that my actual size was going down, but as far as weight, it was just fluctuating a lot. But I decided, to take everybody's advice on the ketogenic forums and on the ketogenic Facebook pages, and I stopped weighing myself so much and just got out the measuring tape the other day and realized I have lost 73 pounds, but I've also lost 41.5 inches, which I think that's pretty good for 5 months that we've been doing this. So 41.5 inches in 5 months. I'm not mad at that. Still have a ways to go, but that's my progress for 5 months.
Yeah, I haven't been. I didn't do very good tracking my starting stuff, my starting values. So I've just got some of it. But again, it doesn't show a huge difference, even though I know I have. I know I've gone down a couple pant sizes, and I'm wearing smaller shirts, and
we basically are walking around looking like we're wearing our parents' clothes, like we're little kids wearing our parents' clothes because it's so baggy. And this shirt, actually, fun fact, this gray shirt right here, I purchased before I ever met this guy. And I'm like one of those people that, I'm not going to throw away clothes that I like, because I'll eventually get to wear it again, which is true in this case. All of my skinny clothes I'm going to get to wear, and I'll be donating all of my fat clothes because I'll never need them again.
Yes, exactly. All right, so Nikki, we met with a couple of people during the week. It was on Friday. Mm-hmm. Friday, and we were talking to them about keto and why they might want to go keto. One couple was actually just interested in, because they already kind of do like shakes and stuff like that, and they just want to know, like, what can they do for like their last meal kind of thing, like their dinner, like what can they do for food, because they're going to be doing shakes and supplements and stuff like that throughout the rest of the day. And of course, we advocate food like all the time. Like we don't know about a whole lot of ketogenic shakes, so we don't really advocate shakes just because we don't know of any that's like keto specific, and there's really no need for it, especially if you're on keto to lose weight. So But then there was another girl, and while we were explaining it to her, we were kind of like, man, insulin plays such a huge role that we kind of want to drive it home until everybody gets sick of hearing us talk about insulin resistance, because it really is the key. Insulin resistance and insulin in itself, even for people who are normal weight, that's the key. Or people that like normies, normal people, it's the key. It's the key to obesity. It's the key to type 2 diabetes. It's some hypothesize that's the key to cancer. We're convinced that it is the key to cancer, and then it's also the key to inflammation, things like that. Insulin is at the source of all of it. So we kind of wanted to talk about a little bit more, like as we learn. A lot of times when we go over this, we're kind of start repeating ourselves a little bit, but there's always going to be nuggets of new information, because it's a vast subject, and you could go on for days just literally reading about it and things like that. So we're going to go over it a little bit with you guys. So to start off, what is insulin, Nikki?
It is a hormone produced by the pancreas. I'll just stick to the script. Insulin is a hormone produced by the pancreas in response to elevated blood sugar, which means anytime you eat, your insulin will respond. There is a insulin index that I plan on studying heavily, because I had no clue that it existed. I've heard of the glycemic index, but that's totally different. I've figured out that those two things are not the same, and so I will be researching that to see what foods have how high or how low of a insulin response, because I want low insulin response.
Right, because all food creates an insulin response, but there's some food that has a higher insulin response than other foods.
So maybe that's what we'll talk about 2 weeks from now, because next week we will be meeting at the church.
Which we're at right now.
Here.
We're actually here right now filming it.
We will be meeting at the church, so feel free to contact us if you don't know the location or all that jazz. Feel free to contact us, and we hope to see you there.
Yeah. So like you said, that insulin is a hormone produced by the pancreas that's responding to elevated blood sugar. Well, what does normal blood sugar look like? Normal blood sugar is 100 milligrams per deciliter, and that's equivalent to about a teaspoon of sugar. The average American consumes 32 teaspoons of sugar a day, on average. So you can assume that your insulin is going to be high, a lot.
Well, just look at it this way: you need this much. You need a teaspoon of.
You don't even need a teaspoon.
Well,
it's just that's normal levels.
To remain in the normal range, you can have this much. You're having. Where's it at? You're having this much more, or this much more, however you want to look at it.
I think on the video we watched about that, and then on the articles we were reading, it was talking about a pound of sugar or something like that. Some ridiculously crazy number. I know he said pounds in there.
Yeah, but and we'll get to why that's so bad for you, and you'll be able to figure out why we gain that extra 5 pounds every vacation that we go on. And
right.
You hear about people going on cruises and all they do is eat. You're not even really hungry, but you're sitting there eating because it's free.
But
why not?
could totally
or you paid for it.
I could totally eat a lobster or something like that, a steak and lobster. So anyways, insulin serves as a key, and it unlocks the door to allow glucose into the cell. So you have the cell, and then you have insulin that comes, when blood sugar is present, insulin comes to the cell opens up and unlocks the door, and then insulin allows glucose or pushes the glucose into the cell.
Right.
So what is glucose? Let's talk a little bit about glucose.
It's a form of sugar that likes to travel through your bloodstream. It does not need to stay in your bloodstream. It's just using your blood as a kind of like a little, what would you call that? A subway?
Right.
To get to the cells.
So what happens is the digestive tract, it breaks down carbohydrates from like refined sugars, grains, and starches, and it converts that into glucose, and it converts it almost immediately. Mm-hmm. Like once it hits your tongue, the carbohydrate is converted to glucose, and that's what travels through your bloodstream. So when we eat a meal, we are ingesting much more food energy than we can use immediately, because that's what happens when you eat glucose. The glucose that goes into your cell, you use it immediately, like that. And that's one of the misconceptions we were reading about today, is that your body uses different types of energy. You have glucose, which is what is converted from your foods and stuff like that. But then there's also ketones that your body uses from your fat or from fat. And people have this misconception that the body its primary source of energy is glucose, but that's not the case. The case is actually that glucose is used when it's present because it burns quicker. Like the body is actually actively pursuing to burn it off quickly.
And it also chooses to burn that first because it's so inflammatory, and because it's basically your body saying, oh well, they just ate something that's carbolicious and we need to get it out of the body, because it's a defense mechanism, truly. So that's why when you eat say a bowl of cereal, it is nothing but carbs, sugar, carbs. So you burn it quick, and then what happens? Like with me, what was happening, I would get really tired and then really hungry. So it's like, I just ate a whole bowl of cereal. Why am I still hungry?
Right.
Well, that's why, because it burns it very quick.
It burns it super fast, and that's why glucose is as soon as you have it in your bloodstream, your body is actively trying to burn it off. But with ketones, with the fat that it uses for energy, it's actually more efficient. Your body burns more efficiently the ketone bodies. Now, your brain does need a little bit of glucose, but you don't have to consume carbohydrates to get that glucose, because your body automatically makes that through a process called gluconeogenesis. We are not going to get all into that right now, because that's a whole nother subject.
To simplify it, the body fat that you have stored is made into the glucose that your brain needs to function. Right. And so as long as you have body fat, you're good. You don't have to eat
body fat, protein, things like that. Like it'll convert it to glucose that your brain needs. And it's not like a huge amount. It's just a tiny amount. I think it's like 15%. 15%. Of what's on your body, or your nutrients that are in your body. So let's go back to the script here, Nikki. All right. So insulin tells our bodies to move the food. Insulin tells our body to move this flood of excess food, of glucose, out of the bloodstream and into storage to use later. That's what it's telling us. It's moving it to the cell for immediate use, and what it can't use for immediate use, it moves into storage. Right. One of the ways. Well, it's actually what your body does. Excess. Yeah, your body does want to store fat, but it doesn't want to store so much fat. Like, we're not meant to have double chins and stuff. So one of the ways our body can store this sugar, is glycogen in the liver, and glycogen is stored in the liver, it's stored in the muscles, and it's stored in other tissues. But there's a limited amount of glycogen that can be stored in the liver and in these other areas. After that, any excess carbohydrates will turn into fat, and fat is harder to access, but it is an unlimited supply. So you can almost look at it as what we talked about this on Friday with some of our peeps,
Keto peeps.
our keto peeps, is that if you look at your body as two compartments, you have a refrigerator, which is like your glycogen stores, your liver, and then you have your deep freeze, which is your fat stores. And so, and this is some of the amazing stuff we were learning today, is that insulin is in effect is one of the prime hormones promoting fat storage. So when insulin levels are elevated, the body will not burn fat. And this fact is the same in normal people and in people who are insulin resistant. So if you look at it that way, your body, you have the glycogen, which is the energy you burn immediately. You have the fat storage, which is your deep freeze. But the thing is in between you have insulin, and insulin, as long as insulin is present, you are not going to be able to access that fat storage because it halts that mechanism.
Sorry.
What? Oh,
the
rain. Yeah, it's
really
starting
bad.
to thunder. Hey, people are. Whoa.
Oh, there's questions.
Oh yeah. There's questions. We'll get to in a minute. And I think it's Matt Miller, so he can wait. We'll answer the questions in a second, but just keep on typing questions, and we'll get to them in a second. So back to the script. Yeah, so that's the thing. You're always going to have fat stored on your body as long as your insulin levels are elevated. So what is insulin resistance? Because I mentioned it a second ago. What is insulin resistance, Nikki?
Oh gosh.
Just talk about like these 2 points, and then we'll get to the subway car thing.
Okay. Well, the 2 points that we want to point out is when blood glucose remains elevated despite normal or high levels of insulin. This is called insulin resistance. The cells are resisting insulin's plea to take up the glucose. So basically, the cell is full. It's not, like if you're ingesting like a ton of carbs, where do you want it to go? Like you only have a certain amount of cells in your body. So once they're full, you're gonna store fat, and that's the insulin's job, is to push the glucose. So again, if your cells are full of the glucose and you've got all this other flooding your bloodstream, it's insulin's job to get it out of your bloodstream, and then it stores as fat.
Right, and there's actually two schools of thought as far as what is happening. There's a lot of what we talk about is kind of from Dr. Jason Fung. We've read a lot of his stuff, and he's a nephrologist, which is basically they deal with diabetes patients that are basically ready to get for amputation. It's when they have experienced nerve damage and things like that. So what Dr. Fung did is he actually opened up a clinic to help people with dietary management, so that they wouldn't get to that stage. And so he's really been studying this stuff for years. And so some of his hypotheses and theories and things like that, he kind of gets from his medical practice. So dealing with thousands of patients, he kind of comes up with these ideas and these notions. And so and he said that there's basically two different schools of thoughts as far as what actually happens with insulin resistance. And one of those schools of thought is that you have the cell, and the insulin is like a key, but the key doesn't fit anymore. Like the key won't open up the door. And so what happens is your cell, the glucose inside the cell is depleted, and then your cell basically starts to starve inside of itself, and so you have no energy. But Dr. Fung, through another study, he proposed that that's not the case. That what it is that the when the insulin comes down, it opens up the cell, it opens it up, but the cell's already full of glucose.
Right.
And so the insulin's basically trying to shove more glucose in there, but it's full, and so then that glucose has to be moved and stored. And so your cells are always full of glucose. And he actually kind of had this picture on his website, and I'll see if I can get it. I'll see if I can pull it up here. Go, camera, go. Go do this. Do this thing that I'm asking you to do. Hold on, guys. Nope, that's not what I want you to do. Nope. Not that one either. Not that one either. It's not doing it.
That one.
I know.
Display.
I know, but that's what I'm trying to do. Okay. But it won't do it. And we'll go to it. There it goes. So, basically, what you have is, and I'll actually do this right here. I'll see if I can get this. Nope, not that one. This one. And then we'll do this thing here. And then we'll do this thing here. Nope, not that one. We'll do this thing here. Whoop. I'm going to take this one off here. Yes, take that one off. Okay. So, basically, what we have is this. There it goes. Boom. Boom. Done. Got it. Alright, so basically what we have is this picture here. Which, as if you can see it, hopefully you can see it. It's a subway car. And you in Japan, when people get on the subway, you have these subway pushers, and what they'll do is they'll when they open up the door, they'll try to shove more people in, as many people as they can in. So that's what Jason Fung kind of describes this as, is you have this cell and it's full of glucose, and insulin is like the subway pusher, and they're trying to push more glucose in, but you can't. And then you have this effect where you have a backup of blood sugar, and that's why you have elevated blood sugar, and that's elevated blood sugar is what's called hyperglycemia. Not hypo. Hypo is when you don't have enough blood sugar, but this is actually hyperglycemia, which is you have an overabundance of blood sugar.
The hypoglycemia is often occurs with type 1 diabetics.
Right, because they don't have because they're not producing enough, and they're actually not producing enough insulin to where there's no the glucose that they eat isn't moved into the cells or anything like that. But the problem with with people who are insulin resistant and people who are type 2 diabetics, what happens is they actually have too much insulin, and that's what's known as hyperinsulinemia. And Jason Fung, through some of the stuff we were reading today, and we don't want to go too in depth with it, but we're just basically going to say this, is that the hypothesis we are working on is the same as Jason Fung, Dr. Jason Fung, which is hyperinsulinemia, which is too much insulin, is what's causing insulin resistance, and what is causing there to be too much glucose in the cells, and which is causing basically your cell's resistance to what glucose or what insulin is trying to do, because insulin is trying to get more glucose into the cell is full, and so the cells are resistant to the actions of the insulin, and therefore the insulin is going to move that excess blood sugar into fat stores, and that's why you have too much fat. Okay. And so that's, I think we're going to kind of stop there, and we're going to kind of answer some of the questions that Matt Miller posted on the thing here. If you one thing I do want to start, because something I've noticed is that there are some people that watch along with us. If you're watching, please go to YouTube. Please go follow the link. Go to the YouTube page and join the conversation, because it's kind of one-sided right now. It's been one-sided for the past 3 or 4 videos that we've done. And so we want a conversation. We definitely want to have this conversation. So let's see. Let's try to narrow down these things here. All right. So basically, he's like my friend Matt. He's asking, basically, what about potatoes? What about Mountain Dew? Everything like that, and it's all the same thing. It's starches like potatoes, sweet potatoes, root vegetables, things like that. Those are going to elevate your insulin, And like I said, and like we researched, is that whenever your insulin levels are elevated, your body is not going to access the fat. It will not burn fat.
Well, just to clarify, all food will trigger your insulin.
Right.
But like the starches and the the roots that you're talking about, potatoes, they have a higher insulin response.
Right. Yeah. Starches, refined sugars like sugar, like white sugar, things like that. Bread, pastas. All those things, those rice, grains, those are higher on your insulin index, and so they're going to have a higher insulin response. They're going to tell your body to release more insulin, and that's what we're trying to stop doing. And protein has a moderate insulin response from what I've been reading, and then fats actually have the lowest insulin response, and that's why the ketogenic diet advocates for higher amounts of fat consumption.
And it's another reason why you should definitely try to figure out your macros. And if you come to the meeting next Sunday, we will help you figure out your macros if you haven't already.
Right.
But you definitely want to. I mean, we don't do the MyFitnessPal or anything like that. But I've kind of figured out how many eggs I can have a day, how many like what my portion of chicken should look like for an entire day, how much ground beef I can have in a day. You just kind of have to do your own research and know what it is you're supposed to be eating, because again, too much of anything is not good. So if you're eating like a large amount of protein, it's going to have a large impact on your insulin response. So even though it's okay to have, you don't want to overdo it.
Right, and people are afraid that they're going to lose muscle mass and things like that, but the fact of the matter is, and there's a lot of research out there that you don't need a whole lot. What we go off of is 1 to 1.5 grams of protein per kilogram of lean body mass. But I've actually read where you can go as low as 0.8 and still not lose muscle mass. Like, you won't lose your muscle mass. So that's kind of what we work off of. But again, you don't want to eat too much. You don't want to eat too much protein unless you're like building, like you're a bodybuilder and you're constantly building your muscles up and stuff like that. I don't know too much about that, so I don't want to. I bet you could probably still eat 1 to 1.5 grams and still build muscle. But I mean, if you wanted to elevate that so that you have that available to you for repair and everything like that, that's what you can do. But I don't know. I haven't even gotten to that phase. I'm trying to lose weight, so I haven't even gotten to that phase of building muscle and stuff like that. Like, I'm just going off of diet.
We're just in fat burn mode.
Right. We're just in diet mode right now. Exercise is coming soon, and then we'll start making videos with that and everything. So, I think that kind of wraps it up for now. I kind of want to go more in depth into, like, in videos coming up soon, hyperinsulinemia, hyperglycemia, and gluconeogenesis. I think these are things that we're going to start talking about more. And again, like, I think that insulin resistance insulin itself is just this big factor that causes a lot of these different things. We know a lady who she deals with inflammation and things like that. It's all about this insulin response, and if you have elevated insulin response, so what can we walk home with today that we can start doing? We actually do a regimen of we do keto. We advocate keto, but we also advocate fasting as well. And that's one thing that we do is we fast throughout the day, and then we eat about one meal a day, maybe two.
Sometimes two. The key is only eat when you're hungry, and
right.
After you, like, if you haven't started keto yet, after about the first week or two, you're not gonna have the same cravings. You won't feel the same at all.
Right.
You will sometimes kind of look around, look at the clock, look at your phone, and be like, man, I haven't ate in like 12 hours, you know? And being awake for those 12 hours, it's just different. Very, very, very different. But get it out of your mind that you have to have 3 to 6 meals a day, large or small. The biggest thing I can tell you, like the most important thing I can tell you, is to just eat when you're hungry.
Right.
Don't ever let someone tell you, oh, well, I'm eating breakfast. You need to be eating breakfast or you're going to die. You know, like, really? Really? I mean, I've had people say that. Like, you better eat or, you know, you're going to pass out. No.
Right. Well, what it is after a while, once you've depleted your glycogen stores, and once you've depleted your glycogen stores, and once you've depleted the blood sugar, the glucose that's in your bloodstream,
which takes 48 hours.
Which takes about 48 hours, 48 to 72 hours, from what I was reading. Once you do that, then your body starts to your insulin levels are low, and you start to use that body fat as fuel, and so you're not going to be hungry because you'll be what's called fat adapted, and so your body is just consuming the fat that's on it. You know, there's been studies and stuff of people who have gone. One guy went a whole year without eating, but he was like 300 and something pounds. You know, we don't recommend that. We don't recommend that.
I like food. I mean, I'm not gonna sit here and eat 6 times a day or 3 times a day if I'm not hungry. But I like food, you know. So
right.
I'm not gonna fast that long.
Yeah. So, anyways, so that'll kind of wrap it up. I feel bad. I forgot to do the Bible verse again. Sorry. I've just been doing like my thing on a daily basis has just been to look at the verse of the day, and it usually always pertains to kind of what I'm talking about, because it usually does, you know. So today's Bible verse is 2 Peter 3:9. The Lord is not slow to fulfill His promise, as some count slowness, but is patient toward you, not wishing that any should perish, but that all should reach repentance. So, I mean, that's kind of, I mean, I it's not what we were talking about today, but it's still a good verse, in the fact that, you know, the Lord is not slow to fulfill His promise, as some count slowness, but is patient toward you, not wishing that any should perish, but that all should reach repentance. And in this verse, I believe that Peter is talking about how the Lord is basically patient with people. And so he wants everybody to reach salvation and that repentance, and so he'll wait. Like, he waits for you, but sometimes waiting in God's promise, we think that it's taking God forever, but God isn't slow to fulfill the promise. God's fulfilling it at the time that it needs to be. So, and it's just like weight loss. It's just like weight loss. Is that you sit there, you're like, God, when am I going to have all this weight off of me? But it's you know, it's going to happen at the right time. Like, you're going to start losing weight at the right time. I was just talking today, that we have this idea that, you know, I'm going to pray and I'm going to ask God to give me the strength to do A, B, C. I'm going to pray and ask God to give me the strength to lose weight. But God's already promised that. Like, God doesn't want us to stay in this shape. You know, God made us to be healthy. And so God, that's a promise. Like, God's made us to be healthy. So if God's already promised it, you need to walk in it, and you need to activate that faith that you have, that's a promise that God made to you. So you need to start losing weight to fulfill that promise that God has already, you know, made. God's going to fulfill it in you, and He's going to bless the actions that you take.
I feel like it's a blessing that we found the ketogenic diet, and ever since I've realized that, you know, it's working for us, I've not stopped reading. And you can ask Matt, you can ask anyone. I'm not a reader. Like, I like my TV and TV shows and Netflix and Hulu and all that stuff. I'm not a reader, but I'm telling you, I've read like 3 books this year just on diet and intermittent fasting, the ketogenic diet, things like that. Like, I just feel like God, through a long, drawn-out story that I won't tell you right this second, but just through my life, I feel like we've been led to learn about the ketogenic diet, and I just can't be quiet about it. I want to see people healthy. I want to see all my friends live to, the ripe old age of 102.
Yeah.
Like, I'm done going to funerals. I'm done. Like cancer has ruined so many lives, and if we can play a small part in hopefully preventing or curing others, then that would be a blessing to me.
But it kind of comes back to, like you said, of course the Lord led us to the ketogenic diet and intermittent fasting and Jason Fung. Like, the Lord led us to all that information. But imagine if we wouldn't have taken that action. Like, God led us to this. We have to take that action. Imagine if we would have just been like, well, I'm going to pray that God gives me the strength to start this ketogenic diet. It's like, no, you have to, like, he gave you he gave us this information. We have to, and if we believe that God gave it to us, we have to act on it. Well, if God gave us this diet, then we have to enact on it, and we have to start it, because this is the promise that God gave us. God does. I do believe that God does miracles, like healing somebody, immediately, and then he has the ones that heal over, progressive amount of time, and I think a lot of it has to do with the journey. Like, if we were to become skinny all at one time, like, there's no journey, there's no discipline. There's no discipline. I saw a friend the other day who they had the surgery, and I was just looking through their pictures, and they had the surgery and they lost a lot of weight and everything like that. But then I looked at their pictures and they're starting to look, like they're gaining a little bit of weight back, and I think that's because they didn't, they didn't take, like, the only reason they couldn't eat is because they got sick because of the surgery. But if you start overeating, your stomach's going to grow back, and so if you keep stretching your stomach, you're going to keep eating and you're going to eat the way you used to eat. So you really didn't discipline yourself. You didn't create that in yourself.
Well, what's sad about that, and even like seeing little kids like eating chips and French fries and just like tons and tons of sugar. Carbs. It's like, knowing this now, if I were to ever get pregnant and have a kid, we're raising that child to be ketogenic, because like what our children are being fed in schools, it's ridiculous. I've joked around about, you see these pictures of like the old cool looking school tray, cafeteria tray, and you got your orange juice, your chocolate milk,
Mexican pizza.
Yeah, the Mexican pizza, sandwiches. We had like Pizza Hut pizza at our school. It's just loaded with carbs. It's like, where's the vegetables? Where is it? Like, they consider pizza a vegetable because it has tomato sauce. Not cool. But I see these kids, they're just starving when they get home, and they just had snack. They've had 2 snacks during the day, and they had lunch, and they probably had breakfast, hopefully. But they're starving when they get home, and it's because of that quick burn of the carbs. Like, when you eat a carb, it's gonna burn really fast, and you're totally messing me up.
Sorry.
It's gonna burn really fast, and then of course you're gonna be hungry again. So, I guess in my rant, I just would love to see everybody more ketogenic.
We're locking
You locking up?
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Yep.
All right.
That's Pastor G.
Hey, sorry. We'll make sure he's locked in there. Oh my gosh! Alright, guys.
All right, man.
But anyway.
Yeah, we're we're heading out anyway. So yeah. So let's go ahead and pray, and we'll close us out. And we'll close out with Pastor G saying bye to us, and then let's lock up. So Lord, thank you for this day. Thank you for this time that we can come together and gather and talk about this issue that we deal with, and that's obesity and overweight and just disease in general. Lord, I pray that we have more people come this time around next week. Lord, that we have and not an overabundance. I don't want it to flood. Well, I do want it to flood. I mean, however many you want to come out, Lord, like I pray that's what happens, Lord, that those people attend and hear the message that you've given us. Lord, I want to pray for those who haven't enacted that faith, Lord, that they're given this information, and it's, I know that we've gotten this information by you, from you. It was directed to us, and so for any of those people that feel like this is directed toward them, and that they need to start this journey, Lord, they need to enact that faith and begin the journey so that they can be molded and shaped, disciplined, Lord, to better serve you with health and wellness, Lord. I pray a hedge of protection over everyone and any kind of traveling or just throughout their day. Lord, I pray against temptation, Lord, to break what we know helps. Lord, I want to pray for those who don't know you. I pray that they hear your message about your Son and how he sacrificed himself, and come to that knowledge that their sins are forgiven, and that they have that way to you, the Father. Lord, I want to pray. I want to pray for your will, Lord, that it be done for everybody. Lord, you're awesome, you're holy, and you're worthy. And we thank you, and we love you. And it's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
See you later, guys.